This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We got a packed show today. There's lots to talk about. The Winnipeg Jets captain is back on the ice. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are back on the practice field. We got the Blue Jays back in action after a win last night against the Twins to start off their series. And love is in the air with maybe the biggest engagement announcement we've had between sports and entertainment. Who knows, maybe ever. We're going to get to all of it. I am really looking forward to having Darren Bauming join us from Princess Auto Stadium. Bombers practicing today. And some great news right out the gate. Dalton Schoen off the 6th game, practicing with the ones. You'd have to think that bodes very well for his chances to be a part of the Bombers' invasion of Mosaic Stadium for the Labor Day Classic on Sunday. We'll try and get a little update on Nick Dembski, as well as the new receivers that were officially signed today after it being reported yesterday, and how things are shaping up as the Bombers begin their week of practice and preparation for the Labor Day Classic. As I mentioned, there is some off-ice Jets news, details on FanFest as well, which we'll get to. Brandon Rewucki's going to jump on the program coming up first. Talk a little Jets hockey off-season, get into some NFL talk as well, and then we'll get ready for tonight's Jays-Twins game and a look ahead to the series against the Milwaukee Brewers on the weekend. Josh Goldberg coming up a little later on today. Do want to mention to you CFL 110 heading into Labor Day live right after Winnipeg Sports Talk today. If you're listening on the podcast, you should have it there. And if you're with us today on YouTube, stick around at the end of the program. We'll roll right in to the new edition of CFL 110 with myself and Jeff Hamilton. Welcome to everybody in chat. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't already. And just let me pass on a quick thanks to all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Our partners at CoolBet Canada. NFL shows begin Friday, 10 a.m. throughout the NFL season. WST winners, 10 a.m. on Friday. Myself, Pat, Jake, making our favorite picks against the spread for the week, firing up a few parlays, having some fun on that. So make sure to join us for that. Of course, our friends at Princess Auto, Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Manitoba Battery, Canadian Club, F Apparel, Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge, Little Brown Jug, Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Assiniboia Downs, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, our friends at Breezy Bend. We'll get to a Why Not question of the day for Not Autocorp, but Waverly and McGillivray. And, of course, fan feedback, as always, brought to you by fansfirst.ca. Michael Remis, what's going on?
I was dialing your number so fast today when I saw the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce engagement. I think I called you faster, more hyperventilating than after the Shifley-Hellebuck extensions. I was like, oh my God, I got to tell Hustler. He used to be pretty pumped, and I know some people out there may not want us to discuss, but it is the biggest story in entertainment, in sports, in the world right now. And we're going to discuss the cultural significance of this engagement for the full 2 hours on the show today.
Turd Ferguson in chat, please don't waste any oxygen on this engagement. Please, I beg you. Turd, what has happened to you? Like, are we not a society where we still believe in love? I said this before. The greatest and most inspirational love story of our generation coming through. A very, very tough scene for all those idiots that kept in my mentions going, this is a scam relationship. They're all doing this for publicity and attention. Well, guess what? That is not the case. The ring has been purchased. They're on. I mean, the Swifties are going crazy right now. It was funny, Remo. So I was doing Lock Shop when I found out about this, and my phone sort of blew up. And I went to X just to see, like, okay, this will obviously be trending. And I didn't see Taylor trending. I didn't see Travis trending. All I saw was, in all caps, OMG, I'm so happy for them trending. So the Swifties are fired up. Chiefs Kingdom, listen, we're all one big team here. So this is going to be listen, I'm glad it got done preseason, and Travis can focus on winning football games and hopefully getting one more ring before it's all said and done. But I see that there will still be doubters, but this is just a reminder to all of you: believe in love. It always prevails. It wins, and it has won once again with the announcement of the greatest pop star ever and the greatest tight end ever tying the knot in the future.
Yeah, and Taylor put it on her Instagram. Actually, we can look at their engagement photo. And I will say, you did mention, I think people can still think it's a sham marriage. Remember the Simpsons episode where Troy McClure married Aunt Selma for his career? I don't know if any of them need to do this, although I think
yeah. They're really, both of these two are really in need of a career boost right now.
Well, I don't know. Would she be shown every 5 seconds on an NFL broadcast? Otherwise, the most viewed broadcast in the United States? No, but anyways, here's the engagement photo between, like, Travis Kelce's Instagram name is Killa Trav. Is that legal?
He hasn't made him change that.
Yeah,
yet.
He might have to change that. I don't think that's legal. But
He's too established.
Here's the engagement photo. Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married.
Oh my God, I'm tearing up. I need a.
You got the tissues. You got the tissues ready. Look at the ring. Oh man, look at that rock. Whoa, nicely done. Very nice.
Travis getting a lot of props from the Swifties on the ring too. They said, tell your men, look at Travis. That's how you pick out a ring. Not my area of expertise, but the fact it's on the finger.
Well,
I think this bodes well for our Super Bowl chances this year. I'm just saying.
There are, local implications, of course. And waiters rates in chat, watch Zach Collaros skip a Bomber game because he's in the wedding party. So we'll have to make sure when this wedding is to see if it conflicts with the Bombers schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Are they doing a summer wedding? That's the NFL off season. Better not be the weekend of a Bomber game. So, maybe they can do it during the bye week or something.
We don't have any details on how this engagement will affect future Winnipeg Blue Bombers seasons at the moment or anything else. But obviously, you knew we'd have some fun with this right off the bat. But it is happening. Big L for everyone that thought that these were two entertainers playing everybody.
They could be. I saw The Simpsons.
No, listen, I know this is one of your worst takes. I don't think a Simpsons episode is applicable here.
Always is. It's The Simpsons.
It always is. And I went through this on the Lock Shop, but this is big for me because, as I said, I have a bet with a friend of mine that Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift will birth a child by week 17 of the 2026 NFL season.
Still time.
I was very worried when I heard about this Life of a Showgirl new album that maybe she would go and tour again for that and push this back a little longer. But I think now that the engagement is planned, they get married, maybe have that kid right away, she gets back out there. I think I'm still very live for this bet by essentially the end of 2026. But I was listen. That was obviously that'll be everywhere. You'll be sick of that for a while. Maybe some of you already are, but of course we were going to have some fun off the top of the show for that. There was, though, Remis, when it comes to social media, some interesting things this morning that Winnipeg Sports Talk listeners will be very interested in. And as the Jets put out, and again, this is why they are an award-winning social media team. If you go to the Winnipeg Jets, there is a post by them in the past couple of, well, let's see, how was it? About half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago. In the most important news of the day, Laus is on the ice, and there is the captain of the Winnipeg Jets. Nice end of summer duster on Adam, and he's out there full equipment with some pucks, presumably at the Iceplex. So, I mean, I don't know what I expected, Reem. I mean, we heard that, Adam Lowry might not be able to play until October, end of November, based on, his recovery from that hip surgery. The fact that we're seeing Adam Lowry on the ice at the end of August, I would have to say, is a very positive development for the Winnipeg Jets and for their captain.
Yeah, Adam Lowry and Travis Kelce both have something in common. They got engaged this summer, but great to see Adam Lowry back on the ice. I'm not really sure what the timeline. I thought it was like January for him to be back and making an impact in the lineup. But to see him, he's got a mustache now. Deking pucks on the ice. I think very exciting. So it's something to monitor. I'm not, I don't think he's coming back right away. But I thought the timeline was like late around December.
Well,
January.
They got bounced in end of May or mid-May.
Let me pull
into the second round. I'm pretty sure I was there. I should have known. But yeah, basically it was like early. Let's call it the middle of May. Couple weeks he had the surgery. So let's say he had the surgery at the end of May. I think they say it's 4 to 6 month recovery. So June, July, August, September, October, November. So we were thinking that it could be as late as the end of November.
June. Yes. So it said 5 to 6 months after undergoing hip surgery, the end of May. So yeah, June, July, August, September, October.
This is only 3 months and he's on the ice.
Yeah. So November. So yeah, December, I would think, but maybe he could come back more that 5 month time. I don't think there's anything you need to rush here. You want to have Adam Lowry back 100% for the playoffs, because I think it was pretty clear that he was not at the top of his game in the playoffs, and he had the surgery right after. So look, the Jets, they did the whole President's Trophy last year. They had some guys very banged up in the playoffs. They want to make sure they're firing at all cylinders come game one, whenever it starts in April of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So we'll see. Hopefully they're in a good position where they're not desperately needing him back. As to the center, you have Mark Scheifele, Jonathan Taves, Nemesnikov, and Barron. I'm assuming, is that the four? We'll have to see how it shakes out. But Adam Lowry in the 2 or the 3 would have been really nice to have him back earlier than later. But I don't think they need to rush anything here.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll get into this a little bit more when Brandon joins us in about 10 minutes. But, one of the more intriguing kind of conversations that I think we'll start having, more once training camp gets going and we have a little more clarity on Adam Lowry's timeline, is who's going to be in that spot when he is gone. And listen, I know Vlad Nemesnikov played last year in the top 6 for most of the year. And he's a very versatile player, and if they need to put him there, they will. But I'll be honest, I'm really hoping that in the absence of Adam Lowry, that we see, a month or however long of Morgan Barron get a shot in that spot. I thought his game, Remo, last year was like when he moved to center after the trade deadline, he was so much more noticeable. It seemed to be more impactful as well. And I think really showed a glimpse that there is a player there at the center ice position with his combination of his speed and his size that, could certainly help the team more than he had playing more often than not in a winger fourth line role. Can he do that? Absolutely. Might he be doing that when Adam Lowry's back? Maybe even on Adam Lowry's line? Yes. But we know how important the center ice position is. I have a lot of time for Morgan Barron getting an opportunity on that third line in sort of that Adam Lowry role. And Vlad Namestnikov could be plugged in pretty wherever. And I think if you had Vlad centering your fourth line, if the third line can get it done and, keep their heads above water, I think it puts you in a really good position at the start of the season if you're without your captain, who's such an important part of that line.
Yeah, I'm curious how it shakes out here for game one. Like, are they going to thrust Jonathan Toews right into that line 2 center, with Perfetti and Nyquist or whoever it may be? Or do you continue to ride Namestnikov, who, did the job last season? And while we've said that they need an upgrade, I mean, they still finished first in the league, the President's Trophy winners for the regular season. I think a lot of it will be, okay, Jonathan Toews, how is he looking in his return? And how many preseason games is he going to play as well? I think I don't want to say the season hinges on that, but I think the depth chart definitely it was going to be a factor in how they organize the depth chart, for the start of the season and how they approach it throughout. Again, he's got a lot of bonuses in his contract for games played, so maybe they're not sure how it's going to go. Well, it's something we'll be talking about all year for sure. And if you missed it yesterday, Mike McIntyre went into some serious detail about the treatment plan that he had to get back.
People need to read that in the paper. And again, Mike was quick to point out, and I don't know whatever, he's been getting some feedback that he's pimping this alternative thing. I guess whenever you're throwing stuff out there, people want to know. But Jonathan Toews will be the greatest ambassador or advertisement for this very unique method of treatment if he comes back and helps the Winnipeg Jets do some special things this year and plays anywhere close to the level that we remember him being capable of in the NHL. But yeah, definitely worth the read, or go back to yesterday's conversation with Mike to get into some of the crazy details of exactly what is involved in this. It's not just like an Aaron Rodgers darkness retreat.
No, it was not. And I'm trying to think of a way to say this that will make people not want to throw up. But a lot of toxins extracted from the body in that place. That's according to the piece that Mike McIntyre wrote.
Yeah, daily enemas, forcing yourself to barf. I mean, a bunch of things that don't sound very fun. But again, it's all about the process and the end. And the end game is Jonathan Toews saying, let's go. I'm back in the National Hockey League and I'm playing for the Winnipeg Jets. So we'll see on that. But back to Lowry for a minute. I have to think, and again, if someone in the chat feels differently or someone that actually knows what they're talking about on these hip injuries and surgeries, you let us know. But all I can think of is we're talking a 4 or more likely 5 to 6 month recovery period. The fact that the captain is on the ice before the end of 3 months is great. And I'll say this, Remo, I'm not expecting him to be, a full participant in training camp or anything like that. But the fact that he's on the ice, he'll be involved. He'll be around the team. This isn't going to be a guy that's at such a far level, he can't even think about getting on the ice. And he's just on a bike for training camp. So that is going to be great, because the one thing I did wonder was about the dynamic of the club. If Lowry's gone for the first 2 months, and now all of a sudden Jonathan Toews is there, along with Scheifele and Josh Morrissey and all that, I think it's very, very good if Adam Lowry is in the mix, even if he's not playing. It's not like he would be away from the club, but to all be there, welcome Jonathan in, kind of create that leadership group moving forward in that way. So some good news for the Jets on the ice. Good news for the general manager in the boat. You see that hog that Chevy pulled out of Aikens Lake?
Man, Aikens putting it out on X. Here it is. You talked about it in your read that they're now open. Kevin Cheveldayoff, GM of the Jets, showing off his trophy walleye. Congrats, Chevy. And he was there with Make-A-Wish Foundation. And look at this, Chevy with the big...
That's a beauty.
How many inches is that thing?
Well, it's a master, so it's 28 and a half, something like that.
Nicely done.
So he's And Chevy and Zinger, have been long-time fans and guests out at Aikens Lake, and I'm not sure. This is usually that kind of last couple weeks, after the offseason essentially finishes, where guys get away. I'm sure they've got their phones in case there's Kyle Connor's agents on the horn. But usually, they'll get out towards the end of August, and as I say, congratulations to Kevin Cheveldayoff for the big catch, and shout out to Pitt and the gang at Aikens Lake. Great to see people are catching some big ones now after not being able to have guests since I left for about a month when the fires rolled in. Reem, we mentioned Blue Bomber news right away, and Darren Bauming's going to join us coming up at 2. But great news on Dalton Schoen. When he was at practice last week, I all of a sudden got my hopes up that maybe he'd be ready for Montreal. Then he wasn't. And then to me, it was all about practice this week. First practice, do we see Dalton Schoen out there? And listen, we know that the Bombers are going into a hornet's nest on Sunday. There's going to be this is the toughest game of the year, 34,000 plus. With the challenges that the Blue Bomber offense has had, especially coming out of last game with the Dembski and the Stearns injuries, this return of Dalton Schoen could not come soon enough, and Zach Caleros might be the happiest guy at the facility today.
Yeah, well, when you had Stearns go down and Dembski go down, and neither of them practicing, one nice thing to see definitely that Dalton Schoen back. He's eligible to come off the injured list here, and it seems like he's going to be practicing with the ones. And they did sign the 2 receivers, made it official today. Kyron Moore, formerly with Saskatchewan, spent last year off, recovering from knee surgery, and Cam Eccles, who's previously with the Stampeders. Kyron Moore wearing number 84, Cam Eccles 15. So you don't get surprised when they're in, because I know some of us were surprised seeing Peyton Logan rocking number 4 this past week. But big news for a team that needs some game breakers. We know how good he is at the waggle. So certainly exciting. And Ed Tate noting that bumping out Dylan Mitchell getting bumped out, and Gavin Cobb taking some reps in Dembski's spot, and Joey Corcoran hang around as well. I know Darrin will join us from the stadium later on in the show with more detail, but very exciting for the Bombers offense.
Yeah, this is going to be a big week for Winnipeg getting ready for the Labor Day Classic. And, we'll kind of get into it on CFL 110 later on today, right afterwards. Myself and Jeff Hamilton hitting all the big stories in the league, breaking down last week's games, and then diving into picks and predictions with our friends at Coolbet for the games on the weekend. Both of the games in the West this week are so fascinating, Reem, in that, you've got this Bomber-Rider game coming off of Calgary beating Saskatchewan. The craziest stat is that Calgary is 5-0 against Winnipeg and Saskatchewan this year. Yeah, they're 0-2 to Ottawa, who's 3-8. I think, did they lose to Toronto as well?
Ottawa, sorry. Gary's texting me, trying to call me during the show. I'm like, Gary,
I know, me too.
Okay, he's calling you too?
Yes,
I'm like, Gary,
just called me. Like,
we're doing the show now. Sorry,
you can tell he's glued into the other place. He's a Bomber guy. He should be watching this show.
He's fired up for Labor Day. He's texting me about Labor Day. But sorry, what were you saying about the Elks and Stampeders?
Well, I was saying the fact that the Stamps are 5-0 against the Bombers.
Yes.
And Riders. They're 0-2 against Ottawa, who's 3-8. I believe, did they lose to Toronto as well?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember. I know that they beat the Bombers, so I don't have that offhand here.
We'll pull it up. I'm trying to remember. But the bottom line is this is such a huge game in the West. And the rivalry adds to it all. But, with the win and the Saskatchewan loss, there is a bit of a feeling of last year, Remis, that I know everybody counted the Bombers out last season when they were 0-4 and 2-6, and we all know how that ended. Well, don't look now, but the Bombers have sort of survived. They're 6-4. They're still in it. And now they're getting guys like Dalton Schoen back. So, listen, a lot on the line for in this series. And then the other one between Calgary and Edmonton, like Calgary has been phenomenal against the top teams. And as I mentioned, they've lost to some of the lesser teams. And now all of a sudden you've got an Edmonton team coming in with a lot of momentum, coming off 3 straight wins, led by Cody Fajardo, who, regardless of anything you thought about the Elks in the past, one thing that I think everyone needs to agree is that Cody Fajardo has made this team fun, and it's made this team competitive every game, and he gets better in the fourth quarter, as he's done in the last 3 victories for the Elks.
Yeah, Edmonton's coming on. They're 4-6. They've only played 10 games, so they've played one less than BC, who's at 5-6. Edmonton's put themselves in a really good spot. They had made all those D-line signings in the offseason. You thought it would help them. One thing to note, Edmonton in the division, 0-4, and what a time it would be to get that first win if it was against Calgary. And I think Cody Fajardo's look good, given their offense some stability. And we were wondering after the first game, or how long, or even when he was signed, how long until he takes over? Because I thought Cody Fajardo, after not being a believer and watching with my own eyes what he did in the Grey Cup, he was excellent last year after to back it up. And yeah, he's Grey Cup. We saw Nick Arbuckle do it on the weekend with Toronto, and Cody Fajardo's been doing it. Sorry, I sort of break out this pain here.
You listen, it comes with the territory. And I've said before, especially through this season, as a Bomber guy, Cody Fajardo was like the Riders quarterback all those years, our arch rival.
It hit the pole.
Goes to Montreal and gets us in the Grey Cup. You would think that would be a guy that would be forever on the shit list. And yet I can't help but cheer for the guy and what he's done so far. And hey, this weekend, I think all Bomber fans, frankly, Bomber fans and Rider fans, will be pulling for the Elks to get one over on Calgary, as it really does seem right now like kind of a 3-horse race at the top of the division. But the Bombers have work to do. See what Brandon has to say about the upcoming Labor Day Classic when he joins us in just a minute. We're going to be moving on to Regina on the weekend with a big crew. But if you and your family are on the move coming up, folks, holler at our friends at Rolly's Transfer to help you with that move. The most trusted name in moving in Manitoba, family owned and operated for over 60 years. Check out their website at rollies.com for, it's a full rundown of their history, everything that they do. And in the top right corner, you can click on Request an Estimate. That is where you're going to want to put in the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And then simply let them know when you're planning on moving, whereabouts the move is going to and from, and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Rollies will turn it around quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment that they are famous for now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, lean on the most trusted name in the game, Rollies Transfer. Find out more today at rollies.com. A lot of smiling Swifties today. And listen, speaking of smiles, St. Vital Dental Center can help you with that smile heading into the fall. If it's been a minute since you've been to the dentist, or you're looking for a new spot to handle all your family's needs, St. Vital Dental Center and our pal Dr. Darrin and his wonderful team have been doing it for generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans, and they've now got a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's Road with convenient free parking right behind the building, and a full array of dental services from cleanings and checkups all the way to things like dental implants. Go to stvitaldental.ca for more information and to make an appointment and pop in, get that smile worked on, and tell Dr. Terry and the gang that WST sent you. Labor Day weekend coming up, folks. That's always a big party weekend, certainly for CFL fans. And for Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans, whether you're on the road to Regina or staying here with a big Labor Day Classic party, I know some of you might be hitting that Manitoba Liquor Marts. Well, if you do, make sure to look for the Canadian Club display. Canadian Club is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and Canada's original Canadian whiskey. And right now, for a limited time, there's a limited edition Blue Bomber label, CC, which you can see on the screen there. And it is available for while supplies last at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And while you are there, make a point of checking out the CC Club Pack. I have a feeling we'll be having a few of those on our way out to Regina on the weekend. CC and ginger ale, the citrus smash, half and half. Amazing ready-to-drink cocktails from Canadian Club, also available at your local Manitoba liquor marts. And just before we bring in Brandon, we are getting closer to having to worry about car and truck batteries. But in the meantime, as we finish up summer, Manitoba Battery is the spot where you'll save big money and shop local on batteries for literally anything. As Donnie always says, wake up Winnipeg, shop local, stop wasting time and money at the big box stores when you can get the best prices in town, period, bar none, at Manitoba Battery, with the best service as well. Of course, you can pop by and see them at their original location on Logan Avenue, the south side of the city, their new spot at Dover Court Drive, or you can give them a call or order online at Manitoba Battery, save big money, and have them deliver those batteries to you for free anywhere inside the perimeter. It is just that easy. For all your battery needs, make it Manitoba Battery. Pop by and see him in store or order online, manitobabattery.com. All right, let's welcome in Brandon Rewucki. Rew, what's up? How are your travels?
Hell in Texas in the middle of August, so I found that out firsthand. But yeah, other than that, we're doing good.
What city were you in?
I was just outside of Dallas.
That is a. Was there a lot of? Was all the coffee talk about Peter DeBoer getting fired still, or have they moved on to Cowboys season?
If I mentioned Peter DeBoer, they'd be like, "Is that the new OC for Schottenheimer and the Cowboys?" Like, there wasn't a Stars apparel or merchandise in sight. So I'm gonna guess they've either moved on or more likely just are unaware of the coaching changes with the hockey team.
Yeah, it was. Once that was done, he ran the bus over Jake Ottinger, got fired, got replaced. Be interesting to see where DeBoer ends up next. Like, he's probably going to be one of those guys that gets one of the first calls. I mean, such a weird thing, like, for a guy that hasn't won the cup, and then you dive into his playoff record. I mean, he just gets to the conference finals every year, and he has that insane stat of game sevens that are the envy of just about everyone, but it just didn't work. Listen, we won't spend a lot of time talking about the Dallas Stars. We will talk about the Winnipeg Jets. I have to admit, I was surprised to see Adam Lowry on the ice today. We were sort of just doing the math from when he was injured, or when he had the surgery, which was the end of May, and basically talking about 3 months, if that, to today, and with him being on the ice. That being said, I mean, the Jets are still going to have to plan to likely be without Adam Lowry for a period of time at the beginning of the season. I don't imagine he'll be a full participant in training camp. I guess we'll have more clarity sooner or later. But I brought this up earlier, Brandon. I'm thinking of you. I am a big proponent of giving Morgan Barron an opportunity with Adam Lowry out in the middle of that line in a bit more of a checking role, and assuming that Jonathan Toews is in the middle of line two, having Vlad Demetsnikov be sort of the anchor of that fourth line. No worries about Vlad going in, and I think you could say he'd be one of the better fourth-line centers in the league, and you're probably putting him on with Kepke and maybe Pearson or a combination of some of those younger guys. But are you with me on maybe giving Morgan Barron a bit of a run on line three in the middle after what we saw from him after the move to center post-trade deadline last year?
Yeah, it's funny. You could make the case it's a move for the present and the future, because
exactly.
I thought with the way he played in the second half of the year in the postseason, he was providing more value on ice than Nemesnikov was. So it's like, it's a combo of, well, he's probably the best option we have right now to fill that role with injury. And who knows what he's able to turn into with a little elevated responsibility on his plate. So for me, it's a no-brainer. Like, I just think it's a win-win, especially because, like, Vladdy's like the, in case of emergency, break and have him save the day sort of an option. Where to me, there's not a lot of, it's almost like a bit of diminishing returns. Like, You know what he's going to give you, and it's great. But if we can find a little more untapped potential within this team, why wouldn't we do so? And I truly think the team is going to lean that way too. And hey, give him, if Adam Lowry misses, I mean, if he's skating right now, maybe it's a rosier prognosis. But if he ends up missing 10, 15 games, does it really hurt the team that much to put Darrin at 3C for the first 10 games? Just kind of lock the lineup and see how it goes? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to be that drastic of a risk to take? I just don't really see it that way. And I just think that this is a guy that's getting better and better. And he might be one of the players, that the rare occasion in the NHL that starts out on the wing, but actually ends up being a better fit down the middle. And the way he was using his body and his size, especially in the last, I thought, couple weeks of the regular season and then postseason, I don't think we're done seeing the progression of Morgan Darrin just yet. And so I don't think it's going to hurt the team in the present. And I mean, you're talking about a decent amount of reward for something that doesn't carry a whole lot of risk towards it.
Well, and we'll kind of swing that into this question in that, and I guess part of the reason why I feel strongly I'd love to see Morgan Darrin get a bit of a run, presumably with like Niederreiter and Iafallo, if that's, who the wingers are for Lowry in that spot, is that, I mean, listen, back to your point. I mean, like, there was a lot of defensemen that they did not know what Morgan Darrin was bringing to the table speed-wise, and he burned some guys. Mm-hmm. And, man, he's a big dude. Like, he can lower his shoulder, take that puck to the net. I mean, it's a very, very effective play, and obviously you're getting the puck into those scoring areas. So we saw some real positive glimpses of him. He's a pretty defensive responsible player. I mean, I'm not going to put him into the Adam Lowry category at this point, and that's going to be a big part of the job. But the speed that he brings, especially when we're talking about the forecheck that line will have, and his ability maybe to use that speed to cover up some mistakes going the other way, I really do think is an advantage. And I guess my thought on this is he's not going to be usurping Adam Lowry right now on Lowry's line. But if, let's say, to use your example, Lowry's going to miss the first 15 games of the season, and Darrin gets a good run there and is playing well, I actually like keeping Darrin at center, assuming there's not another spot on that line for him. And if he's going to be playing on the fourth line, have Morgan Darrin as the center in the middle, and then finding the right group of players around him, whether it's Vlad, whether it's Kelce, I mean, some of the guys that are sort of on the periphery. Because, as I said, I was left wanting more of Morgan Darrin at the center position based on what we saw after he made that move last season.
Well, and let me throw one more hypothetical your way, too, in that Jonathan Toews is a massive unknown at this point in terms of on-ice impact, in terms of health. If you wanted to try to preserve him a little bit, if Morgan Darrin gets a run of 10 games in a row to start the year and he shows well there, maybe you kind of go the Claude Giroux route in a sense where maybe Toews isn't an everyday center, right? And maybe you can preserve him a little bit by pushing him out there to the wing. He's a guy that will take the faceoffs for you. And that's kind of how the Flyers and the Senators have prolonged Giroux's career, is that they turn him into this hybrid guy who would take draws, but wouldn't necessarily have to deal with all the physicality of playing 82 plus games at the center position. So maybe that's another option there where, if you want to have Toews locked and ready to go as 2C come playoff time, but you still want him in the lineup, maybe having him swap with Morgan Darrin on a line could be a potential way to do that. So again, the Jets are going to be a playoff team, but a lot of this is about figuring out how can we tweak things and set ourselves up to be the best version of this team by the time mid-April rolls around. And I just think, frankly, Morgan Darrin down the middle, one, gives you a better chance to win now, but it does kind of keep your options open a little bit and you become a little more flexible, which isn't a bad thing. And you need to kind of keep one eye towards the end of the season, specifically with Jonathan Toews. And so this could be a situation that allows you to do that if Darrin can take this extra responsibility and run with it through October.
there will need to be some level of production. And I have a real hard time really comparing it to anything, because I think when you move into the center and you're playing more minutes, there's just so much more opportunity, especially if you're maybe playing up in the lineup with some better wingers. I mean, last year he had 8 goals and 7 assists, 15 points in 74 games. I mean, the one thing that will be counted on is, listen, you want to win your minutes and you don't want to win your battles. And if more often than not it's a wash, but you're coming out on the end, whether the numbers are huge or whether they're low, I think from a coaching perspective, you'll take that when it comes to just winning hockey games. But for Barron, I think there is something that, he might get the opportunity, but what he's going to have to do, I think, is show that there is another level to his game offensively, connecting with his teammates. Sometimes it'll be more kind of generating and driving himself with those plays, like I mentioned, by taking it to the net. But at the center position, it can't be a black hole for offense, especially if you're playing in that role. Because as much as the Lowry was the shutdown line, that was a line that did get their fair share offensively as well, including winning a lot of the matchups and spending more time on those other teams' ends. So, I'm with you, Brandon. I think that there's a potential for Morgan Barron that we saw some of last year that would definitely, given the circumstances at the beginning of the year, bode very well for giving him a bit of a longer look, maybe at the center position, even with some guys that he might not normally have the opportunity to skate with.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point to make as well, in that, and I get the production is somewhat tabled to his ice time and his line, predominantly a fourth line player last year. But if you want to talk about how he can expand his ceiling as an NHLer, there does need to be another added layer of skill thrown into his game. His hands have to get a little better. He's got to be a little more aware of finding some of the soft spots in the offensive zone. But a lot of the things he does right now translates, although it might not be flashy, it translates well to being a support piece somewhere in the middle six. Because just look, any guy that's 6'2", 6'3", 200 plus, and is an above average NHL skater is gonna cause some level of problem in and along the boards, pretty much at either end of the ice. And so he's got that base to work with, but if he can add a little more skill to his game, then he does become a bit of an intriguing piece where you can potentially mix and match him down the middle, out there on the wing, on the second line, on the third line, on the fourth, right? He becomes a bit more of in a way, a turbocharged, larger version of Vlad Nemesnikov for you. And again, having more and more of those guys in the lineup is not a bad thing. So there's a lot on his plate going into the year. And we talked a lot about, Lambert has a big chance. Chibrikov has a big chance. Barron's not in his late 20s. He's got a big chance here to stake his claim as to what he can be at the NHL level, whether it's, with the Jets or elsewhere. But there's the potential for him to have a really, really big impact on a really, really good hockey team this upcoming season.
I'm just pulling up the Jets on Puckpedia here. And when you look at the forward group, obviously they need to figure out what is up with Kyle Connor. You got Nyquist as a UFA at the end of the year. He's on a 1-year deal. Taves on a 1-year deal. And then Pearson and Koepke, who are sort of depth players, we'll see where they finish up. Morgan Barron has 2 years left on the extension that's paying him $1.85. He'll be a UFA at the end of that. I think we could make the argument that based on this injury to Adam Lowry and the time it's expected to make him return, despite him being on the ice today, that given what may or may not be there for him, what he's able to do in the first 10 to 15 games, while Adam Lowry is out, presuming that he's in the center position, and especially if he's in the third spot, is maybe the biggest opportunity of his professional career. And one that will, again, you can't count on more of these opportunities. You'd love to give everyone, there's only so much ice time and you're looking to win hockey games, right? What if he gets that spot, how he plays in that, he'll go back to somewhere else when Adam Lowry finishes up, but looking forward into next season as well, Brandon, At the end of those 2 years, you're going to have younger players coming up. There'll be more guys ready to make it. At that point, you're really making decisions on guys. From Barron's perspective, I mean, this is a huge year. Not quite a contract year, but man, if he can take that next step, help the team win hockey games, presume he's a very, very important part of this team. His focus and everything changes going in, and who knows, he might be getting offered some sort of extension in the offseason next year as opposed to waiting and seeing where he fits in. I mean, that's a dangerous spot for guys sort of in the bottom six with the amount of young players. I mean, just look at, Mason Appleton and his situation.
Well, and I mean, look league-wide in free agency in the offseason, what teams are paying both cap-wise and then asset-wise in trades, any semblance of value in a forward group. And because there's more teams now than there were a few years ago, everybody's scrambling to pick somebody up, right? And so, not that he's 1 foot out the door, but whether it's here or there, if he performs well, he's going to get an opportunity at some point with an NHL club. And so it's all there for him right now. And even just, looking ahead to next year, who knows, even if Taves exceeds expectations, what his role with the team is or isn't next year. I mean, how long have we been searching for a second line center? Forever, right? And then Braden Yeager's kind of the next hope to do so within, but I'm sure the Jets wouldn't oppose the opportunity of somebody else coming in at 26, 27, whatever they might be, and taking that spot for the foreseeable future, right? So, there's a lot of opportunity with this team right now. And again, to do so with a club that's, I don't know where you want to put the Jets. And I mean, I don't know what Vegas has the odds right now, but let's just say a top 10 team in the NHL. To have those kind of opportunities with a contending team is really, really rare. And so, look, we've seen less heralded guys before take massive leaps and become regular top 6 NHLers, right? Nobody thought Willie Karlsson was going to come in and put up the numbers that he did. He gets an opportunity and he runs with it. The same could be said with some of the Seattle players. Jared McCann puts up, and not to say Barron's going to do exactly that.
I'll take 40.
I'll take 40. I'm not expecting 40, but we will all take it. The point being, though, that sometimes all you need is a chance, and guess what? You get it. It's pretty rare, but here it is. Run with it, and let's see what you can do. And I'm not going to expect him to be the 2C for the future here. I'm not saying that, but you also never know. And he's going to have a chance to play 14, 15 minutes a night now. And so let's see what happens with it. I mean,
I'm not sure the high end would ever be a top 6 role at center for Morgan Barron, but listen, Adam Lowry's not getting any younger. Obviously, he's going to be dealing with this hip surgery. There is that. I mean, listen, if you can hang with those guys in the third line role for the Jets on a line that'll play a lot, that'll get tough matchups, something. Hey, while we're at it, I'll put this why not question of the day out for not Autocorp, but Waverly and McGilvery to the chat. And I'll put it to you. Appleton is obviously gone. When Adam Lowry is back, who do you expect to be on the wings of that line? I guess assuming Taves, Nyquist, Perfetti is line number 2.
I mean, the easy answer, the boring one, would be Nino and Iafallo. Because at that point, if it's not them, you're basically banking on. I mean, the only way it's not going to happen, Huss, would be if Chibrikov just had a training camp of all time. Mm-hmm. It could happen, I guess, but generally training, I know teams like to say this position is up for grabs in training camp, or we're going to have a competition for this. It's not really true. These coaches have been spending months and months preparing this team to look a certain way come the regular season. And 99% of the time, they're not going to alter it based off of a couple of weeks of practice time. And so I think also with the way this team has handled their veteran players in the past, and especially under this coaching staff, it's just really, really hard to envision it being anything other than Nino and Iafallo there. I guess maybe the only possible changeup might be if Nyquist gets swapped with one of those two, and somebody else moves up with Taves and Perfetti, which I guess could happen, but I would imagine that there's a little more familiarity with Morgan Barron and those two. And at this point, you might lean a little bit more towards that, at least at the start of the season. So yeah, it's a boring answer. Be nice to say something a little funner, but I
think that's likelihood. And to be honest, I mean, I love IFL. I mean, I think that he can help the team a lot more than he can in a fourth line role. But it's good if you got fourth liners that are battling for more time. The one caveat to that, Brandon, is that, and again, this kind of ties into what we were just talking about with Morgan Barron. I mean, if Barron, let's just say Barron's playing center for the first 10 to 15 games and he's doing really well, and their decision is, do we move him to the wing on this line because we want him out more and we feel that he's doing well and he can handle the move of the position, or do they feel they're better off suited to have Barron stay at center, play in that fourth line role, and then have Iafallo or Vlad or Chibrikov or one of those other guys pop in? Because, tying it back into Barron, like, I think, listen, best case scenario, he's playing more and he's playing at center. But if the fourth line role is 7 to 8 minutes and the third line role is 15 to 16, and you think that this guy is the best fit doing what they're asking them to do on that line, Barron's another obvious possibility.
Yeah, it's a tough one, like which you'd rather have as a player, right? Especially, but I mean, like from a team perspective, Jets would be massive down the middle, like to roll Scheifele, Taves, Lowry, Barron as your forward.
Yes.
Like what Scheifele's the runt of the quadrant? Like you're pretty much talking 6'2", 6'3", right down the middle there. That would be really tough for me to pass up, even if Barron took a bit of a step this year. So I might try to keep that together. I think too, like if you're Morgan Barron, it might not be as hard. Like, yes, the minutes are going to be less, but it's like you're playing a premium position. I think in theory, the Jets might dole out their ice time a lot more evenly across all four lines than they did last year. So maybe it's 10 to 11 minutes as opposed to just 7 minutes a night. I think if I was Morgan Barron, I wouldn't even mind doing that because I could maintain my spot down the middle there. Good problem to have though, right? Like, how do we get Barron more minutes? But I guess push comes to shove. I know I get it's not playoff time, but I there's something about having 6'2", 6'3", 6'5" down the middle that it's like a security blanket. You sleep a little better at night knowing you can lean on that and make life live in hell for the opposition.
It would be great too, just speaking of Morgan Barron, if he somehow showed up a little meaner this year, because he is a big, strong guy. I mean, he'll certainly hit, but that element of physicality has been, if that could get ramped up, that's another thing that I think could really, really increase his importance and value to the Winnipeg Jets. Hey, just switching gears for a minute. Big rivalry game this weekend in Regina. How are you feeling about the Bombers heading into Saskatchewan against what will probably be an ornery Rider team after losing their second game of the season? We're going to talk to Bauming about this in a minute, but some good news. Dalton Schoen's out there. And Zach Caleros, I'm sure, is breathing a sigh of relief. But they've won a couple games that they absolutely had to have, but now getting into the teeth of the schedule against their biggest rival. And the tide's turned a little bit as far as what the thoughts have been going into this game the last few years with the Riders on top of the West.
Yeah, very interesting. It's funny, Huss, like, looking at the standings, I almost wonder if it's more, if it's less of the Bombers need to get home field to yada, yada, yada in the playoffs, or is it like we need to make sure Saskatchewan plays Calgary and hopefully knocks Calgary out? Because it's almost like maybe we need to avoid the Stamps come playoff time because they've had the Bombers number far too often this season. But the one thing I think, just looking at last week going into this week, no sacks again for the Bombers defense against Saskatchewan. I don't know if it's going to be all that competitive. Like, they need to find a way to amp up the pass rush, amp up the pressure, ideally, obviously, 4-man. But even if it takes some blitz packages, some exotic blitz, like they're not going to go up against the Riders defense, and then allow Trevor Harris 3-4 seconds in the pocket and walk out of Saskatchewan with a victory. It's just not going to happen. So they need to find a way to elevate the amount of pressure that they generate. And let's hope that the stakes being amped up allows them to deliver that, because we know Willie can elevate his game when the stakes are a little bit higher. We'll see if the rest of the pass rush can find a way to do so. But that's the big thing I'm looking at. It's just that it feels like there's been too many games this year, Huss, where clean shirts, clean jerseys from the opposing QB. But I think especially, I don't know, it just feels like they played Trevor Harris good, the Bombers, whatever jersey he's been wearing the past several years. But a big part of that has been they're in his face, and he's not as mobile as a bunch of the other CFL quarterbacks.
Yeah, the thing about Harris is that he is famously good for just getting the ball out so quick. I mean, he takes 2-3 steps back and it's out of his hands, and that's why sometimes it's hard. But I will point out to Calgary on the weekend. Calgary sacked Trevor Harris 4 times. Now, listen, we've seen it 3 times already. Calgary's defense is very, very good this year. But I would say that even if the Bombers aren't necessarily sacking Trevor Harris, getting Willie Jefferson in those lanes, batting balls down, being disruptive is what needs to happen first and foremost, even if you're not getting the guy down for 4 or 5 yard losses. Just zeros, second and longs, punts is what the Winnipeg Blue Bombers do need. I will say this, the one thing that's giving me more optimism than I maybe would have had a couple weeks ago is that Blue Bomber offensive line. And man, it seemed like Patty Neufeld and the boys up front said that, listen, we're reminding everybody who we are. We can talk about the 4th-string quarterback, no problem. Montreal defense wasn't a bunch of 4-stringers. And they're a very good unit. And for the Bombers to have that 10-play, 81-yard drive with the game on the line where they knew it was going to Brady and Brady was getting his yard after yard, play after play, that's something that they absolutely have to have at their disposal. It can't just be all on Zach Collaros, especially with what's happened to the receiving core as of late.
Yeah, and I mean, what, minimum 25 touches for Brady in this one? Right? Like, you just, that's it. Whether run, pass, he's taken on such a expanded role in the passing game too, where it's like, I mean, I don't really care how they get him the ball, just get him the ball, right? And getting him the ball means that Zach isn't getting hit, and they tend to get these long drive, right? So to me, I don't really care how it happens, but if he ends up with 20 plus carries, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 catches, yeah, you will feel good about the Bombers' chances in this one.
Before we go, I did not ask you about the biggest news of the day. Was your heart overwhelming with joy when you heard the news that we're now going to have culmination of the greatest love story of our generation? Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are engaged.
Oh, really? I thought you were going with pumpkin spice came out at Starbucks today. So this is a big.
I guess, yeah, you are one of those. Let me ask you a serious question, and I don't mean to generalize genders, but for the big hype of pumpkin spice lattes, when you're rolling in there with the big crush to Starbucks or wherever you get your bougie coffees, are there any other men around you, or are you just there with the girls going, let's get on this pumpkin spice train and ride?
Yeah, which is I'm fine with that. Like it is I would say a 95-5 ratio. The one caveat I will say is that I get the pumpkin cream cold brew, and I get mine with no water and light ice. So at least like it looks like a manly drink, right? Like I will like to give myself a little street cred. Like I do have that going for me, but hey, every once in a while, if the ladies want to get down with the pumpkin spice and I'm there with the team, I'm okay with that. I was noticeably more excited for that than the Swift Kelce engagement news. games. Although I'm happy for the happy
Absolutely. Well, come on, you're a romantic. You're living happily ever after. Don't you want that for everybody else, Brandon?
Yeah, can't wait. Hey, and if they bring a couple of little ones into the world, that's great too. Another, 2 more people that don't sleep. So let's keep it going.
Yeah, after the season.
Yeah.
Hey, have a great one. We'll talk to you soon, and getting closer to next time we speak, it'll be post Labor Day. We'll be gearing up for Winnipeg Jet training camp and just about go time on hockey season. Can't wait. Have a good one, dude. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, you guys too. We'll talk soon.
All right, there's Brandon Rewucki. We're going to head to Princess Auto Stadium in just a minute and hook up with Bauming. Post-Bomber practice today. Of course, Princess Auto, proud sponsors of the Bombers and their home, the loudest stadium in the Canadian Football League, and the home of the 2025 Grey Cup. Princess Auto is also the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. So pop by and see them in store, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, out in Brandon for our friends in Westman. And you can always shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Well, we already kind of jumped the shark on our Aikens Lake plug today because, yes, Kevin Cheveldayoff got a couple days on the water and banged out a master angler, which is up on the Aikens socials today. Congratulations to Chevy. I hope he's enjoying a few days away and then getting ready like the rest of us to get ready for hockey season come on the other side of the Labor Day weekend. They will be going till the middle of September. If you want to squeeze in a last-minute fishing trip, there is some availability this year. And, of course, they're booking well into next season as well at Aikens Lake, a world-class fly-in fishing operation where you can be on the water in less than 2 hours from the city of Winnipeg. Check out aikenslake.com for more information. And if you are thinking about getting out there before the end of the year, make sure you tell Pitt that you heard about us or them on Winnipeg Sports Talk. They'll hook you up with a 10% discount as well for any remaining 2025 booking. And hey, fellas, if you're looking to up your menswear game as we get into the fall and winter, now's a great time to get down to F Apparel at 190 Smith Street downtown, the best in custom men's clothing in the city. Custom suits starting at $400, chinos, golf pants, custom shirts, both tucked and untucked styles, and the best selection of menswear accessories around. If you are getting married or in a wedding party, make sure to talk to the guys at F as well about a special discount when you and the fellas get suited up for the big day at F Apparel. Again, they're at 190 Smith Street. Check them out online and make an appointment to come in for a fitting at F. That's EPHapparel.com. All right, all weekend long, we've been waiting to find out how things would look at Blue Bomber practice as they get ready to take on the Riders next week in Regina. Darren Bauming of Bonfire Sports, who will also be in Regina with the crew, joins me now from Princess Auto Stadium. DB, what's going on? How are you? Hold on a sec. We got to get you unmuted here. I think Remis got you on the mute. Hey, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good, Huss. How was your weekend?
The weekend was good. I mean, to be honest, I was just getting ready to, I was counting down to this upcoming weekend, to be honest. Enjoyed the games, go. Enjoyed the games. Of course, we had the Bombers on Friday, or on Thursday, I should say. Gutsy win by Edmonton, and then 2 really interesting games. I mean, the Hammer and I'll get into it on CFL 110 the other way. Got to tell you, just before we start talking Bombers, I mean, huge win for Calgary. I kind of thought that Saskatchewan would have flexed in that one and got one back. They're 5-0 against the Bombers and Stamps, which is amazing. But my God, the air show of the Argos against BC was the biggest stunner. I mean, how long of a flight was for Benavides and that BC Lion defense on the way back all across the country after getting lit up for 52 by Nick Arbuckle?
That was incredible. It's amazing to think Nick Arbuckle leads the CFL in passing yards this year, and he leads the Argos in rushing yards. I don't know how many drives they had in total in the second half of that game, Huss, but there was a span of 6 offensive possessions where Toronto scored 5 touchdowns. Like, whatever they were trying to do, it was working to a T. And it wasn't that long ago that the BC Lions had a big win at home in overtime against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. They had no penalties in that game. The next week, they had over 200 yards in penalties. So maybe we're starting to see some of the growing pains and the quirks and wrinkles being ironed out with a new head coach in Buck Pierce. You mentioned the Stampeders. I mean, they look like the class of the CFL right now. Bob Slowick's defense ranks first or second pretty much in all of the major statistical categories. Saskatchewan is right there. But you mentioned they're 5-0 against Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. They're undefeated against the West. So when you go into that quote-unquote second half of the season, or that when the real season starts after Labor Day, the Stamps have that work behind them where they won the season series against Winnipeg 3 straight. They've got that key win against the Rough Riders. It really does kind of add a little bit more intrigue and wonder if Saskatchewan is maybe on a bit of a skid here, entering a bit of a skid. They seem to have these mid-season skids, right? So Winnipeg and Saskatchewan head-to-head the next 2 weeks, it's going to mean so much when it comes to the West Division standings at the end of the year.
You know, I'm just going through this schedule just while we're talking about Calgary. And it is so bizarre that they are undefeated against the West. They have 2 losses to the Ottawa Redblacks this year and a loss to the Montreal Alouettes. Now, I think the Alouettes at that time were playing with Davis Alexander, and there's certainly a bit of a different team with their starter. But Calgary, and again, they're going to have, I'm not sure whether they'll have their hands full with Cody Fajardo and the upstart Elks, but that will be a big one. But of course, the one that we're most interested in is Sunday at Mosaic Stadium. Now, first things first, fill us in on practice today. We saw some good news on Dalton Schoen. What's the latest on Dembski? What's the latest on Stearns? Who was out there? Fill us in on what you saw with boots on the ground at Princess Auto Stadium today, DB.
Yeah, so for those that might have missed it in the game for Winnipeg this past week, Nick Dembski appeared to smack his head pretty good on the turf and left and did not return to the game. So too did receiver Jarrett Stearns. Not hit his head, but went down, maybe something lower body, did not return. If you look at the CFL transaction wire today, Stearns has been placed on the one-game injured list. The team has struggling with bringing him back right when they need him. He's missed 7 weeks, 6 games, if you include that bye week as well. He was running with the ones. I kind of saw that happening last week, when he was out there running full speed. I'd be very surprised if he's not in the roster or in the lineup on Labor Day in Regina. So that's good news. I'll even say Nick Dembski overall is good news. He was running sprints at practice today, but not in gear. Did have his practice jersey on, but not participating, with his helmet and cleats and everything. But he was running sprints. So that's a very, very positive sign. I wouldn't rule him out yet for Labor Day. This is a nice long practice week for Winnipeg ahead of that game on Sunday. So there'll be some changes in that receiving core. A lot of talk about Dylan Mitchell and everybody waiting for him to make his Blue Bombers debut 3 weeks ago. Well, now it's been 3 weeks, and I don't know, he's probably got less than 50 total yards in those 3 games for Winnipeg. So he may come out of the lineup if Nick Dembski is indeed healthy. But you add in Schoen, if you take out Stearns, and then the Blue Bombers added 2 veteran receivers today. Officially, it was reported yesterday by 3 Down Nation First, and that's Cam Eccles, who has been in pro football for the better part of a decade, just a couple years in the CFL. He was here at practice wearing number 15 and looks sharp, 6-foot receiver. And then Kieran Moore, the guy they call Swerve, time with Edmonton. He's had some big games against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Time with Saskatchewan, where he's had some big games against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We talked with him about that after practice today, wearing number 84. And he's somebody I think he and Eccles are somebody I think Winnipeg will look to in the coming weeks, but they needed some depth. They needed some security at receiver, and they get that in those 2 guys. But, Redick Ramsey, we're kind of keeping an eye on him and a couple others. Just day 1 of practice here ahead of the Labor Day Classic.
Yeah, listen, just quickly on Dembski, the fact that he's out running around, I mean, I think we were all concerned. I know they didn't kind of publicly say, but it certainly looked like he banged his head and went into the concussion protocol. And listen, if guys are still dealing with those effects, they're usually away from the team. They're usually in the quiet room. They're usually just resting. So that is a real positive development. And Darren, considering that we've still got 5 days until game day, Nick Demski's probably the last guy they need to worry about getting reps in practice when it comes to the receiving core. So if he's able to play, he will be playing in that game against his former team, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. And I think we all agree that, with what Saskatchewan's done so far against everybody not named the Calgary Stampeders, it is going to take a full team effort, well executed, with all hands on deck. And that, to me, means Nick Demski and Dalton Schoen available for Zach Collaros. And this will be the happiest Zach Collaros has been in a long time if he's got those two guys, because it really has been a challenge for them, to find that continuity and consistency, despite the fact Zach's coming off his most effective game of the year, playing a very well-managed game with 27 completions on just 31 attempts.
Yeah, I asked Collaros about facing a very good defense in the Montreal Alouettes this past week, and they were clean, efficient, and productive. And, he says, well, we still have a lot of things to work on. But believe me, there is no doubt that winning the turnover battle 3-0, playing clean, scoring touchdowns, they didn't knock anyone's socks off, but nobody was expecting them to. I think even a good, like one of the higher ranked offenses in the CFL would be hard pressed to score 30 points against the Montreal Alouettes defense. But the way the offensive line played, and of course, Brady Oliveira, who had over 200 yards combined rushing and receiving. Big breakout game for him, got into the end zone for a second time this season. But I can't say enough about the offensive line.
Yes.
Whether that is, the play of Zach Collaros, whether that is Jason Hogan, their offensive coordinator, settling in as the play caller in his first year, running a CFL offense. I think all of those things are coming together, and Winnipeg hoping to catch their stride, right here on the precipice and the doorstep of the two biggest games of the year.
Yeah, you know what? I'm glad. I was going to go to the offensive line next because of how important it is, especially in a game like this. To me, if the Blue Bombers are going to win this game, they're going to need to do a couple things, one of which is do a better job than they had maybe up until last week in moving the chains and keeping the football in the hands of the offense. And all of that starts on the line of scrimmage. The ability to establish Brady Oliveira rushing the football is paramount to this team. We have seen them at times when the receiving game really wasn't working, kind of making Brady the number one target, whether it be design plays, whether it be checkdowns. And all of that is good. Listen, the more times 20 has the ball in his hands, the better for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But starting it off with them respecting the run and having to focus on the run, to me, Darren, is something that is key. And listen, we saw it in spades against a good Montreal defense last week. I know there's a lot of talk about James Morgan and what they were dealing with at quarterback. What they were able to do in the fourth quarter was maybe the most positive development of the season for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and the closest we've seen to the Bombers looking like the Bombers in the fourth quarter of previous teams.
Hopefully I still got you. A little bit frozen there for a second.
Yeah,
but,
you're good.
Look, that offensive line, I think something people don't realize is that continuity is important. And Winnipeg has had Micah Vanterpool start at left guard. They've had Gabe Wallace start at left guard. They've had Vanterpool start at left tackle, right tackle. They have had Kendall Randolph and Eric Lofton both start at right tackle. There's been a lot of small, but a lot of changes on that offensive line throughout the season. So I don't think you can say enough about that continuity, that gel, that consistency in that offensive line for both the play caller in Jason Hogan, the quarterback in Zach Collaros, and we know about the injuries and the roster changes they've had in the receiving core as well. Chris Streveler has started a couple games and played 7-8 quarters now as the number one quarterback for this team in 2025 already. So they're hoping that they can bring it all together. And again, that win in Montreal, playing clean, efficient football against a good defense, and now practicing with incredible pumped-in crowd noise at practice here, Hustler. I had a Bomber player tell me today that there is no way Mosaic is going to get as loud as what they're preparing with here in Winnipeg all week long. So when they get to Mosaic, and there'll be 5,000 Bomber fans there, so maybe only 27,000 Riders fans making noise when Winnipeg's offense is on the field. It's going to be like a picnic as far as that crowd moves. They're going to be very well prepared.
Yeah, I hope that clip doesn't get circulated in Regina. No. Hey, listen, Bomber fans and what's happened here in the Banjo Bowl and really game after game after game has really raised the bar. And the one thing you bring in the crowd, and we knew that the crowd noise was going to be big, and that's another real challenge for the offensive line when it just comes to executing and being able to handle everything that's being thrown at you, is that this is going to be the biggest crowd in the history of Mosaic Stadium. They're selling standing room only. They're over 34,000 for this game. So, I mean, the closest thing that they're going to get to being on the sidelines listening to the Bomber crowd give it to the opposition is going to be coming up on Sunday evening in Regina. And listen, both from an offensive line perspective, also the receivers. I will say one thing that has been a little bit unnerving this year, probably mostly to the coaching staff, has been, and part of this has been the different faces that have been in on the offense, but there's been a number of receiver offsides, procedure penalties. I mean, those are things that you, especially when you're going up against a team like Saskatchewan, you need to eliminate. And to the credit of the Rider fans and the atmosphere around this game, probably the most difficult game of the season to be able to be clean on all those things. And that's going to be a big, big focus of preparation for this game throughout the week.
Yeah, it is funny you say that that's a clip that might, get out to those fans in Saskatchewan, because I was thinking about that when I was writing down notes today. Like, should I, how do I phrase it? But it's absolutely like deafening, Hustler, deafening crowd noise pumped in here. I have been at crazy Labor Day games, Banjo Bowls, Grey Cups, sold out stadiums, nowhere near what they're preparing for here in practice. I'm glad you mentioned, some of the offside calls and some of those mental mistakes the Blue Bombers offense has made this year. Something to consider too, and I think your audience knows this, and people that watch Bonfire on YouTube, that I work really hard to shoot it straight. I'm not going to be apologetic for the hometown quarterback, but Zach Collaros this year has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns, and the reality is some of those are on the receivers, running the wrong route, drop balls, tipped balls, that sort of thing. Can't put it all on the quarterback. But they have not been sharp. They have not played their best football yet. But I think it's important that people know this team is capable of more. Have they been their best? Absolutely not. But are they capable? Absolutely they are. They'll need to bring their best game against the number 1 or number 2 ranked defense in all of those important categories in Regina against the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
You mentioned the turnovers by the offense and by Zach this year. He now is at least it's 500. It's 10-10, touchdown to interception, although he would be the first one to tell you that needs to increase heavily on the TD side and keep the picks at a minimum. Had a clean game last week. As much as they are going to need to find ways to score, I mean, whether it's a field goal game and it's Sergio Castillo and it's mostly, field position, whether it's Brady Avila, whether it's passing, there's no bigger factor in a Labor Day game, pretty much any game, but especially here for the visiting team, than playing a clean game and taking care of the football. And listen, Zach has had some games that have been underwhelming by his standards so far to this year. I think he's looked a lot better the last couple of weeks with the return of Schoen and hopefully Dembski. That continues to get better. And listen, sometimes game score, when you're down, you got to take chances, and it ends up not looking very good on your stat sheet. And I think you could argue that a few of those that he's thrown this year is exactly that. But coming out of the gate, taking care of the football first and foremost, and hopefully being on the right side of that turnover differential, I mean, goes without saying, is probably number 1 on the board of must-dos to get this win.
Very well said by you, Hustler. I think, we've said a lot about the crowd noise with the Blue Bombers offense on the field in Regina. But the truth is that strong start you talked about and not turning the ball over. There are few things that get a crowd more amped than a big interception or a big fumble caused or a scoop and score or a special teams play, a return touchdown, that sort of thing. Winnipeg cannot allow that Rough Riders heavy crowd in Regina to help them gain momentum and keep momentum. If you keep that crowd at bay, things will be easier throughout the game. That's going to be very important for Winnipeg. Very well, very strong point by you, Huss.
Do you, Hammer and I were just talking. We were looking at the lines for the game. By the way, we'll go through this later on, but Sask right now at Coolbet is, I believe, still a 5.5 point favorite over the Bombers. The total's 51.5. I was thinking about that crazy game last year. Ended up being 35-33.
Right.
Do you think this will be a high scoring game? Like, part of me thinks that if the Bombers are going to win, they're going to need to put up a bunch of points, because I think with, where the secondary is at and with what Saskatchewan's bringing to the table and the way they played at home, like, I do think Sask is going to be into the 20s. Like, I do wonder if it's going to need to be 28 or 30 points for the Bombers to win this game.
That's interesting. This is the thing about the CFL, though, Hus, and you know this as well as me or anybody else. There's games where I go, okay, this is going to be a defensive battle. It's going to be low scoring. We're seeing backup quarterbacks or the best offensive players or whatever. And then it ends up being an absolute shootout game and 40-plus points on each side. And it's happened the other way, too, vice versa. So you never really know what you're going to get, especially Labor Day games between Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. You remember I've been already talking about it for a week or two already, but that famous billboard of 7-1 versus 1-7, and something's backwards about
2011.
This. Yeah.
Dude, we were at the game. We might have talked about this on the show yesterday, but I remember rolling in. Gary and I did a couple buses for that game. So we had
I was
a
on
big
that bus
crew.
with you guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. We were walking around Regina, and keep in mind, for people that are going, what are you guys doing? I mean, this was coming out of a decade of darkness where the Bombers got whacked every year. They had not been competitive. And all of a sudden, the Bombers were 7-1 and the Riders were 1-7.
Yep.
Well, the Riders won that Labor Day game, and then they won the Banjo Bowl as well. And 7-1 turned into 10-8.
Yes.
Albeit they still were able to win that game and make it to the Grey Cup.
Swaggerville, right?
Yeah, well, that's when the shine of the swag got knocked off a little bit for a little bit. But there is something to be said about throwing out the records of the teams. But here's the thing: if you had told me that this team would be 6-4. I'd be like, okay, well, that's not bad, especially considering what they were dealing with last year. They were 4-6 through 10 games after being 2-6. It didn't seem, though, for the first, we'll call it 8 games of the season, that the team was really close to that level. And again, listen, they've won a couple games. The Ottawa game was no masterpiece. They found a way to win against Montreal. But it's the things that need to happen to get to where they need to be that I think we're seeing coming around a little bit. And listen, there was worries about the secondary. That still is, I think, somewhat of a concern going up against a really strong rider receiving core. And Trevor Harris has had a great year.
Yeah.
But from the Bomber perspective, a lot of what was killing them was self-inflicted. And it seems like that has been getting better. And it's going to need to be way better to get this win on Sunday. But if they do come out and play to their level, this is a game that is winnable, despite the fact that they will and should be a significant underdog in the game.
No, objectively speaking, you're absolutely right. It is a winnable game for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And back to your question about what type of scoring we might see in this game, I expect Winnipeg's defense to be better than it has been because of those changes and injuries in the secondary, especially. Dexter Lawson Jr., we've seen some good, we've seen some bad. I think he's only going to get better. Demario Houston, who joined this team last year, we know the caliber of player that he is as a CFL All-Star in years gone by, is somebody that they could bring in to play and make the roster this week. Cam Allen, I mean, when he was lining up at safety, he's essentially Winnipeg's starting safety with Jamal Parker injured right now and still not practicing. He's been very good. I expect Winnipeg to just focus on keeping everything in front of them. Don't allow Trevor Harris and some of those very dangerous receivers, Samuel Emelis and company, to get behind them. If they can limit those explosion plays, get back to that, when Jordan Younger's defense was the best in the league and when Richie Hall's defense was the best in the league. Bend, don't break. Don't allow those explosion plays. That, combines in with keeping the crowd down a little bit on the road. Those things are going to be important. That said, I don't know if it's going to be high scoring or low scoring. I'm going to say if Winnipeg wins, they can't get into a shootout with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. You need kind of a medium game where it's going to be close to that projected over-under number that I know you guys are going to get into with your cool bet lines.
Hey, I'll tell you what, one thing that we haven't talked enough about, and just to finish off, if you want something to really give you a boost of confidence for the Bombers' chances on the weekend, is special teams. The return game is much better this year. Certainly they'll have to take care of coverage. I mean, you can't let that go back the other way, and with all the chaos that will come in the stadium for that. But to me, dude, it's the kicking game. Like, I will ride with Sergio Castillo,
no doubt,
for pretty much any kick. And if people haven't been paying attention, the biggest story in Saskatchewan this year has been the struggles of Brett Lothar, who has just not been able to consistently put him through the uprights. And I think he's been feeling it. And let's face it, he's been there for a long time. He knows the pressure of Labor Day. This isn't week 4 against the Ottawa Redblacks.
Right.
This is Labor Day against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And with that comes some significant pressure. And I will say this, I certainly love the Bombers' advantage when it comes to the kicking game on if it's a close game, could absolutely be the difference between winning and losing.
I remember talking to Justin Medlock, who, I don't know, for anybody's money, I don't know if there's more of a tactician in the professional kicking game than Justin Medlock. I remember talking to him about a Labor Day game. It might have even been a playoff game, whatever it was, about Mosaic Stadium and how, it's that toilet bowl, right? Everybody kind of talks, it looks like a toilet seat, but it's got that gap on one side where that absolutely adjusts the wind. If there is a considerable wind in Regina on Labor Day, that gap can cause a lot of swirls and a lot of weird things to happen. So no doubt Sergio's going to be out there, on walkthrough day on Saturday, ensuring that, he's got all of those feels down. As far as Brett Lothar, I know they brought in another kicker and, have some options there. But you look at Brett Lothar as a Canadian kicker, his career in the CFL, he has gotten progressively just a little bit worse every single year he has played in the league. You have to wonder if he's not just feeling the pressure of this season. He's kind of that 1 weak link in the chain of a championship caliber roster in Saskatchewan. If he's feeling that pressure this year, as well as his career, he's going to need a big game, because those kicks, it's not just the end of the game, Hustler. It's those kicks at the end of the second quarter going into half. Those are high pressure kicks as well. The converts are going to be high pressure kicks, because every single point is going to matter, especially in a rivalry game.
Listen, I cannot wait to get out to Regina with the entire crew, you, Schnitzy. What's the Bonfire schedule this week as we get ready to go? I was going to say wheels up, but more in the bus and out west.
Let's call it bottoms up, Huss.
Yeah.
I can't track down Chris Walby. Like, I know where he is and I get him on the phone, but I cannot hammer him down when he wants to do Game Day Winnipeg and our pregame show live. Probably Friday, because we're going to be on that bus trip, the 1930 crew, on Saturday. But people just got to keep it locked to our social media channels at Bonfire WPG on all your favorite ones. And we'll get your live pregame and your live postgame as we always do.
Yeah, all right. And, of course, throw a follow at Darrin if you haven't already on socials, and at Bonfire Sports for what he's got cooking for the game. And I know we'll have a lot of fun tweets and IG posts and whatnot from the shenanigans leading into the game out in Regina. Thanks for doing this, DB. Looking forward to seeing you on the weekend.
Yeah, have a great one, Huss. We'll see you soon.
All right, there is Darren Bauming. We're going to shift over from the Labor Day game to the Blue Jays. Big one tonight against the Twinkies at home, and then the Brewers are coming in. Josh Goldberg joining us in just a minute. Of course, hockey season is just about here. We just saw Adam Lowry on the ice today. To get ready for the season, it takes but one stop at one place, and that place is Royal Sports, the ultimate hockey superstore in the Peg for over 50 years. Best place about Royal, in addition to the biggest selection you'll find anywhere with great prices, is the fact that their staff is stocked with hockey players to help you get the right fit and make the right decision on all of your hockey needs. Get ready to drop the puck at Royal Sports. 5 decades in, is still the #1 hockey superstore in town. And of course, all that new NFL gear coming in for all of you getting ready for NFL kickoffs, and a great spot to grab your Bomber gear before you head out to Regina. 750 Pembina Highway. Hit them up on Instagram and give them a follow at Royal Sports Winnipeg for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. Looking for a good spot tonight to watch the Blue Jays and maybe have a couple cold ones? Why don't you make it your local Boston Pizza? Boston Pizza always has the big game on all the big screens, along with ice cold schooners, world famous BP wings, gourmet pizzas, and so much more. Pop by tonight for first pitch just after 6 p.m. or order online and get it hot and fresh to your door at bostonpizza.com. And just before we bring in Josh, a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's get the latest on the first place Blue Jays with our pal Josh Goldberg from Blue Jays Nation, who joins us now. Josh, what's going on? How are you? Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, happy to be on, Huss. Hope things are well. Summer's coming to an end, which means that the stretch run is at full swing here for the Blue Jays. This is the best time of year for a fan of a contending baseball team.
You know what is crazy? I mean, it's August 26th today. It has sort of felt like a pennant race for the last 5 weeks or so for Blue Jays fans. And I guess that's what happens when you've been sort of on the outside looking in for the last few years. And let's face it, went into this season with, for the most part, very low expectations. I mean, their win total is about to get cracked at 78.5 any day now, probably this week. It really has been like this white knuckle ride that you usually associate with late August and September, really since that Yankees series about 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, really, you're right. The Canada Day series against the Yankees, that sweep, was kind of the turning point. I don't know if that's necessarily even the right way of putting it, but really when it put everything into perspective that this Blue Jays team was going to be capable of potentially winning the division and competing for the best record in the American League. And with the benefit of hindsight, you can always look back, and a lot of people, myself included, before the season were looking at the American League and saying, it's pretty wide open. There's not really one team or any teams really that seem to be capable of emerging from the pack. And that's been the case in a big way this year. And some of the underwhelming teams, like especially Baltimore, I didn't see coming to this perspective, or to this extent, I guess I should say. But like the Jays, all it was going to take was guys performing closer to their career norms and getting those unsung heroes stepping up, which they've had in a big way. And that Yankee series really was like the rocket ship that turned things around. And they're in such a good position right now to win the division with a month and change left in the season. It's an incredible spot to be in, and one that they weren't even really in 2015. Like, they came from behind, and then they didn't clinch until the last couple of days of the season. I'm not saying that this team is necessarily going to clinch that early, but they're in a decent position to clinch the division if they continue playing as they have, with some time to spare.
Well, and not only that, I mean, Boston, has 72 wins, as does Houston, who's first in the West. But we're now into the point where, I mean, not winning the division would be a disappointment. And if you win the AL East, just based on where the records are right now, very good chance you avoid the wild card round entirely. And considering the Jets' the Jays' previous history in that wild card round, I would suggest that would be a hell of a way to go into October.
100%. I don't think there's any denying how important it is to avoid the wild card series. I think you would say that for any team, but when you consider, like you said, the scar tissue that has been built up over 6 playoff games and no wins, like weird things happen in 3-game samples in any sport, but particularly in baseball. All it takes is a couple of cold games, or you run into some hot pitchers and bing, bang, boom, you're out in 2 straight. And like I said, the Jays fans know that all too well. Best of 5 gives you a little bit more runway, right? It's not a huge amount more runway, but you got to win 3 games instead of 2. And that makes a big difference at this time of the year. And certainly having a home field advantage, I think, will be extremely important for this Blue Jays team, because it's abundantly clear that they're just a completely different team at home than they are on the road. You could say that about a lot of teams in Major League Baseball, but it's particularly stark when it comes to the Blue Jays. I think they're 29-9 in their last 38 home games. They've got one of the best home records in baseball, and there's a buzz, there's an energy. It's noticeable. Like when you watch games at the Dome versus on the road, I think they're galvanized by it. And I think in the postseason, we remember back to 15 and 16 and even 2022 to an extent, it's a whole other situation playing home baseball games in the postseason in Toronto. And I think that this particular group of Blue Jays seems to really feed off of the energy that the home crowd provides. And I would like to think that that would be just taken up to the nth degree when the games matter as much as they do in October.
Yeah, 43-21, right there with the best home records in all of Major League Baseball. And it didn't start particularly well. So, you kind of extrapolate out of May beyond, pretty much the team that's done the best with home cooking throughout the year. I want to get to the pitching staff right now, Josh. We haven't spoke to you until the weekend. I mean, what a start for Shane Bieber. I mean, there's a lot of people going, wow, this guy hasn't played in over a year. I mean, what are they getting? Well, if first impressions are worth much, you're getting a guy with a Cy Young under his belt that has a lot to prove and has a lot left in the tank. I mean, that was phenomenal. Was it 2 hits, 9 strikeouts?
Yeah, you couldn't have dreamed a better debut outing. And I've been thinking about this, and I've just been so struck about how good his command has been, because in most cases after Tommy John surgery or a long layoff, command is often the last thing that is slated to return for a pitcher. You got to work your way back, and you're not quite as crisp or as sharp. And he has the velocity and the command. He's throwing harder than he did the last couple of years, and he barely walked anyone in the minors on his rehab assignment, and then didn't walk anyone against the Marlins. And his curveball was great. He mixed in a really impressive changeup that I think could be a huge weapon for him moving forward. Good slider as well. Fastball was up. This is exactly why the Blue Jays made the bet. And I understand it's one start, it's the Marlins, sure, but you saw what Shane Bieber is capable of doing when he is at his best. And that's why the Blue Jays went out and got him. They didn't want somebody to come in and eat up some innings down the stretch. They had eyes on the end of the regular season in September and October, and somebody who could come in and make a difference and be somebody who can elevate things. And Shea Bieber is that guy. And all things being equal, if he pitches anywhere near the level that we saw on Friday night against the Marlins, I don't see any scenario in which he's not starting the first game of a playoff series at the Dome.
I'll just put you on the spot right now. Let's just fast forward. Say everything stays the same. The Jays don't have to play in the wild card, and they get to set the rotation up for a best of 5 series.
Yeah.
Is Bieber rolling out in game 1, and who's 2 and 3 after him?
I think, yes, Bieber rolls out in game 1. I would probably go with Max Scherzer in game 2. I know yesterday he gave up a couple of homers, but he still only gave it 4 hits, just victimized by the long ball. And he's been so good as of late and has obviously the pedigree and whatnot and all the experience. I think I would probably still go with Kevin Gausman. It gives me a little bit of pause because the peaks and valleys are just so steep with him. When he's great, he's still super dominant, and the rough patches can be not particularly great. But I just don't feel amazing about a Bassett or Barrios. I guess you could say maybe you tailor it so Bassett starts at home, because obviously the home road splits are huge there. So that might be something that you take in to consideration. But in a best of 5, I want my 3 best pitchers lined up, regardless of home road splits. And I think right now it's Bieber, Scherzer, and Gausman, and then it gets really fascinating beyond that. And I think it would come down more to a case of matchups and who you think favors in a certain situation against a certain team. And we won't know until the Blue Jays' first round opponent is set, whether that is Bassett, Barrios, or perhaps even somebody like Eric Lauer.
Well, speaking of Lauer, I mean, what can we take away from how the team is handling the starters this week? We're going to get Bassett tonight. I believe Lauer is going Lauer going tomorrow, day off, and then Roland Beebs out Friday night for their first game of their series against the MLB leading Brew Crew from Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I still, the whole 6-man rotation thing is just kind of tied my brain up into a pretzel a little bit. Like I thought that they were going to go with it. I didn't know how long it would last. And then they made it seem like they weren't going to do it and they were going to move Lauer to the bullpen. But John Schneider called the situation fluid, and then he didn't pitch against the Marlins, and he wasn't even in the bullpen. Like every camera shot I saw of him, he was in the dugout. So I don't know if they ever really envisioned it. Maybe they were playing possum a little bit. I don't really know how it's going to go here over the next couple of weeks. I think it might, if he doesn't pitch great tomorrow, maybe you move him to the bullpen and you scrap anything. Or if he does pitch well, you continue with it on a start-by-start basis. But I like the idea of getting Bieber against Milwaukee and a week between starts. I still think it's good to maybe ease him in right at the start here and give him an extra day and then get him onto a regular routine as we get closer to the end of the regular season. But you want your best going against the best, and Milwaukee has been the best team in baseball for quite a while now, and their offense has been incredible. And it's going to be a good test for him. And this is the type of test you want to see a pitcher like that in terms of how they can fare, because it might tell you a little bit about how they could match up in a postseason situation when our outs are just harder to record. It's just harder to get guys out. There's more stress. Everything is more pressure packed in October. And I think a start against the Brewers, your home debut, if you're Bieber, is a good litmus test for where he might be trending as we get closer to the end of the season.
Hey, while we're staying with pitching, I always think back to the Royals in 15 and then in 16, where they basically were playing 6-inning games. And they would get to the 6th inning, and they had Herrera, and they would just go 7th inning, 8-inning guy, 9-inning guy, lights out.
Yeah.
Now that the Jays have added all of these relievers in, we've seen certain guys look really strong sometimes and others. If you had to guess, what would the order right now, in terms of, I guess, confidence, for a 7th, 8th, and 9th? I mean, those 3 guys in a scenario where you're looking at 3 guys to get 1 inning in and out. How does it line up right now based on the new landscape post-trade deadline?
So this is a rough time for it because the bullpen has been quite brutal in August, and we talk about the acquisitions, and there have been good moments for both of them, Louis Varland and Sir Anthony Dominguez, but you look at their ERAs, I think Varland is 5.59 in August and Dominguez is 5.87. That doesn't give me a ton of confidence as we sit here right now towards the end of August. Varland, it's, I think, 4 straight appearances with a run. I don't really know. It's his curveball hasn't been good. He's been throwing it more than I think you would probably want. Maybe he doesn't feel great with his fastball. Hoffman's had a good month of August aside from the blow up against the Dodgers. So he's in the 9th. But right now, I think the rest of the season is about figuring out if you can trust some of these guys in these big spots. But I don't really know if you're going to have any other choice. Like Jimmy Garcia, I don't think is coming back this year. Every update we get is worse than the last, and I'd be surprised if he pitched again this year. So I think you just have to hope that you can get Dominguez and Varland in a place where you feel relatively confident about their chances, because you're going to have to go to your bullpen a ton. It's more extreme than it was even 10 years ago, where maybe somebody would get 4 or 5 outs. Like, you might ask a reliever to pitch on 3 straight days, and then potentially on the last of those days, if it's a clinching scenario or to stave off elimination, you might ask them to get 6, 7, or 8 outs. All the previous thought process when it comes to managing a bullpen goes completely out the window in October. You're way more aggressive with it. It's all about shortening the game, and the Blue Jays have work to do in that department before I think a lot of us are going to be able to sit here and feel any high degree of confidence they have the horses in that bullpen to deploy it in the way that you need to have the most success in October.
Josh Goldberg's with us talking Jays and Twins tonight, game 2 of their series just after 6 p.m. Winnipeg time tonight. On to the other side of things, big scare, Vladdy Guerrero out for a few days, pinch hit, back last night. All systems go for the big guy moving forward?
Yeah, it looks like it, and I was happy with how they treated that whole situation. They didn't rush him back because a hamstring injury, any like soft tissue, lower body, leg, calf, hamstring, groin, that sort of thing, those are not to be messed around with. And the slightest bit of being too aggressive with it can lead to a huge setback. And this Blue Jays team, for all the lumps that Vladdy takes from a decent chunk of the fan base for some of the things that they wish he did better, namely hitting home runs, he's still their best offensive player, I think, on the whole. I know Bichette might be their best pure hitter, but in terms of the on-base skills, the power, the doubles, all of that, I still think Vladdy is their most irreplaceable offensive player. And if they're going to have some success for the first time down the stretch and into October, it's going to be on him and it's going to be on Bo to find something that they haven't so far in 6 postseason games. They both struggled. We know that they're both very capable of hitting the best pitchers in the league, and you sink or swim sometimes with your stars. Look at last year with the Yankees. Juan Soto was amazing. They made it to the World Series. He was good in the World Series. Aaron Judge was not. You need your stars to be your stars when the lights are shining the brightest, and the Blue Jays haven't had that happen yet. And it's another opportunity here for those two guys to really put a stamp on things and make an imprint in franchise history, because you always remember the postseason heroes like Ezekiel Carrera in 2016. It always stands out more in October, and those guys are still waiting to kind of bust down the door and have that kind of signature stretch or game or a couple of games in the postseason.
Josh, there's been a lot of players on the Jays that have sort of raised their level this year, and that's why we're talking about a first-place ball club. But I just need your perspective on how shocking the season that Dalton Varsho is having. I mean, this is a guy that came in as a defensive specialist, a guy that, wasn't particularly consistent at the plate. He's hitting a bomb every 10 plate appearances right now. I mean, what is going on? And is this something we can maybe think that this is Dalton Varsho now moving forward? Is this just a really hot streak?
I think it's somewhere in between, because when they traded for him, obviously we don't need to rehash the whole Gabby Moreno situation. It's behind us now. But he had a good season in Arizona in 2022. He hit more than 20 home runs, showed legitimate power, especially against right-handed pitching, and he's shown flashes of it in the first 2 seasons he's been a Blue Jay, but it's been too inconsistent. And obviously, the batting average has been closer to the Mendoza line that you would like, and the strikeouts have been there. You could still attack him with velocity up in the strike zone. That's still kind of his kryptonite, so to speak. But he has legitimate raw power that is almost as good as anyone's in Major League Baseball. Like when he connects, he can hit the ball a long, long way. I don't know if he's somebody who I can say will hit a home run every number of at bats, like on par with a Judge or Ohtani. But I don't see any reason why, if healthy, he can't be a 25 to 30 home run hitter. And all he needs to do is that and hit about 230. You'll live with the low on base percentage with power and a decent enough average, considering the value he gives you with the glove and on the bases. And if he hits 25 to 30 home runs and hits 230, 235, maybe 240 with that defense and that base running, you're talking about one of the best and most valuable all around center fielders or outfielders really in the entire league.
Hey, just speaking of the entire league, we were going through it, and I know they were mentioning it. There's only like a handful of guys hitting over 300 this year.
Yeah.
Well, what is up with that?
I just think the days of high batting averages are just a thing of the past. I don't really know if it's a foundational shift where hitters are selling out more for power and walks and the whole three true outcomes situation with home runs, walks, and strikeouts. But yeah, it's the major league slash line in terms of batting average, on base percentage, and slugging percentage just hasn't been that high for a while. I feel like it's never been harder to hit. Even with all the video and the iPad in between the dugout, in between the bats and the dugout, like pitchers throw so hard, they throw so many different pitches with so much spin, and different release points. It's incredibly difficult to hit right now, and I think hitters are just more determined to make solid contact that can do damage, and maybe sacrificing the line to line approach that could lead to more singles and a higher batting average, like a Bo Bichette, for example. He's kind of a throwback in some ways. I just think, barring something unforeseen that I can't sit here and see right now, I think the days of the Tony Gwynns of the world hitting single digit home runs and hitting 340, there aren't many of them left. Like Luis Ariz, Jacob Wilson of the Athletics, guys like that, they don't come around very often, because I think a lot of hitters now from a young age are taught to look to take a walk, and when they get their pitch, put a good swing on it and try and do damage. And if you swing and miss, so be it. We'll live with that if you're smoking doubles into the gap or hitting home runs.
Josh, great stuff. Looking forward to this game tonight. And really, I mean, this series on the weekend should be phenomenal. I don't imagine there'll be an empty seat in the place from Friday night right through until Sunday. And that's what it should be, because for as great as the Jays have been, the Milwaukee Brewers in some ways are the National League's version of the Toronto Blue Jays, a team that people thought might be okay, that has been absolutely steamrolling. Although I will say this, after that, 13, 14 win streak, after they had an 11 game earlier this year, they might be getting them at a good time, because I didn't see what happened last night. They had lost, I believe, 5 of 8 after that losing streak. So at some point they're going to lose some games, and maybe, just maybe, this would be a great weekend for Milwaukee to do that.
Yeah, I think they blew a game in the 9th on Sunday, the Giants, to, I believe, lose that series. It really is like looking in the mirror in a lot of ways. They don't hit a lot of home runs. They put the ball in play a ton, but they score a ton of runs. Their bullpen has been really good. Their starting pitching has some guys that can miss bats, Peralta, Mizorowski, who I don't know if the Jays are going to see maybe on Sunday. But yeah, like the Brewers are capable. If you're not sharp, they're the type of team that can take advantage of every area of your game if you're not sharp. So I think it's going to be a great test. I'm really looking forward to it. It's just a different type of series where the teams kind of play the same way and they're built the same way in some regards. But it's not conventional in today's day and age, where they're succeeding in spite of the fact that they aren't among the major league leaders in home runs. It's kind of a throwback series in some ways.
Well, listen, we've seen in recent major league history, sometimes the best teams are zagging when everyone else is zinging. I mean, again, I'll pull up those Royals teams just because I follow them real closely. I mean, in 2015, 2016, I mean, they were playing small ball, they were bunting, they were doing a bunch of these things that nobody else did, but because of the way that they were built, especially with that bullpen, they got away with it and they won games. And the Jays have sort of found themselves. Milwaukee's been in that case, so we got a big boy matchup for the weekend, but it'll be key. It would be really nice for the Jays to finish the job against the Twins, who basically raised the white flag, get these next couple wins, and move into the weekend with a little momentum after that day off Thursday.
No question about it. And it was good to get the win yesterday against Joe Ryan, their best pitcher. So that was obviously a good way to get things going. The Jays have just been so good at home. They're like in the top 5 in most offensive categories at home this year. So I'm going to be down there tonight. I'm going to be down there tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. This is the best time of year, Huss. This is what it's all about. The fan base will be packed tonight, and it's Looney Dog night. It's going to be.
How many do you think you can get in there tonight? You're going to go full Joey Chestnut?
Buddy. The last time I did it, I didn't feel great afterwards.
Oh, you don't say.
I think I'm past my prime in terms of just like shoveling a bunch of dogs down my gullet these days. So we'll see. It could be a game time decision type of situation.
Josh, thanks for doing this, man. Enjoy the games. I'm jealous, and we'll talk to you soon as this playoff run and the pennant chase continues. Appreciate your time as always.
Good to talk to you, Huss. Talk to you soon.
Good stuff. Blue Jays Nation is where you'll find all Josh stuff, and you can follow him on X at jgoldberg12 for more on the Toronto Blue Jays. All right, we got CFL 110 coming up in about 10 minutes. Speaking of baseball, it is the final weekend of the regular season for our beloved Winnipeg Goldeyes, and of course, there's a big finale homestand coming up right through until Labor Day. And we got some great promos for the weekend as well. Friday night, fireworks night, the final Friday fireworks. And this is probably going to be the best one of the year, knowing that they blow everything they've got out off at the end of the season. But also, just with it not being as light as late, with the 7 o'clock start, a little bit later fireworks should be the best show. So if you do love that stuff, Friday's a perfect game to get out to the ballpark. Saturday is the player card giveaway. That's a 6 p.m. start. And then on Sunday, Fan Appreciation Day, the team photo giveaway, autograph session. Heck of a way to spend that final weekend of baseball season here in Manitoba with the Goldeyes. Goldeyes.com for your tickets. 982 base for more information. Of course, Goldeyes.com for everything going on about our friends down at the ballpark. Unfortunately, no playoff baseball this year for our friends at the Winnipeg Goldeyes. Tomorrow on the program, we'll be getting into the Ryder Cup. Ryder Cup announcement tomorrow. And who else would I talk about Ryder Cup with than my pal Jeff Feinberg? But did want to give a big shout out to Breezy Bend and everyone that took part in helping put on the Manitoba Open. Really unfortunate weather situation coming out of that Wednesday night boomer, which cost them 36 holes of the event. But just looking at the feedback from the players, as well as people that attended the event, everyone that was involved, starting with Corey Johnson and Craig and their staff there, and of course Brendan Baldwin, who headed up the entire group. Just a huge well done to everyone. And as I say, Mother Nature didn't cooperate, but everyone else pulled their weight. And despite it being shorter, still a great weekend out at Breezy Bend. Go to breezybend.ca for more information on membership at one of Winnipeg's top private courses for the 2026 season. We will get to Assiniboia Downs coming up in a minute. Do want to get to fan feedback. Brought to you by Fans First, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market, where at Fans First, what you see is what you pay. No added fees. And good news, Bomber and Rider games are on. The CFL is listed on the Fans First this year. So if you're looking to try to desperately find a couple Banjo Bowl tickets, Fans First will have you. And listen, if you're trying to get in the building for the Labor Day game in Regina, Fans First, another great spot to do it. Now, there is a lot of wild, the entire chat's sort of gone off the rails. talking about. I've been sort of paying attention to this. We've got like actress athlete combinations. Listen, I'll get to those in just a minute, but I want to start off with a really nice super chat, which we'll pass on from the one and only T. Konopali. R.I.P. Craig Smith. And we opened the show yesterday and we had a great segment with Rob Vanstone on Craig Smith. Tony says, a T. Kona OG. Donate the coin somewhere, WSTF cancer. Well said, T. Kona, and thanks for popping that by. We will make something happen on that. Of course, Craig, a Winnipeg native, spent so many years in personnel departments around the Canadian Football League, passed on the weekend. And for those of you that missed yesterday, Craig, a very familiar name to those of us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, because he was a very avid chatter and always graced us with some incredible football knowledge, great takes, and really fun banter. So we'll all miss Craig and appreciate you doing that as well. But Remis, what is going on here? I mean, we've got, how did this all start? Can you tell me that? Was this out of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce?
Yeah, it started.
Love story of the century?
Because we're talking about the number one story in the world, front page news in the United States. You're going to be seeing it everywhere on your TV.
North America's royal wedding.
Yeah, the engagement of Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. And there's a local tie-in. I haven't seen cool bet lines on like who's going to be in the wedding party, but I imagine Zach Collaros could be a favorite. But so we've just been going on saying, okay, who are the top celebrity couples of all time, and where does this rank? And Turd Ferguson, the chatter, who was berating us for talking about
did not want to talk about it right off the bat.
Didn't want to talk about it. Seems to be able to list off every celebrity sports couple in history, digging out my personal favorite one, Valerie Bure and Candace Cameron. That was in there. The ones that, the popular ones coming up, Mike Fisher, Carrie Underwood, you have hockey, Dion Phaneuf, Alicia Cuthbert, some other ones being mentioned repeatedly.
I saw Jenna Jameson and the Huntington Beach bad boy, Tito Ortiz.
That's that one came up too. One we didn't mention, Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. It's a pretty good one. I did say George Clooney and Stacey Keebler to get some WWE ones in there. We're mentioning A-Rod. I talked, A-Rod's been on there. This goes on.
We could do just a whole segment on Jeter.
Well, Jeter was mentioned.
Jeter's got the whole squad, like the full starting 9.
Yeah, Russell Wilson and Ciara. Issue Boy Bruce was going back to the OG, Joe DiMaggio, Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, started it all.
David Beckham and Victoria Posh Spice Beckham, probably on the Mount Rushmore of celebrity couples. So look, this isn't a new thing talking about celebrity couples, and we're all to stay tuned now on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce announcing today on Instagram the English teacher has married the gym teacher. And then T-Will pointed out, shouldn't she be the music teacher? I said, well, she calls her she's
too
more
prolific.
She's more of a lyricist than just a straight musician, She's like a poet.
It does it all. That is the the Shakespeare.
What's her album? Tortured Poets? Isn't that what she calls herself?
Tortured Poet Society was one of them.
Yeah.
The new one is The Life of a Showgirl. And after that, hopefully by week 17 of the 26th NFL season, The Life of a Mother, as my bet on when they will sire a child is now very much in the mix, with the clock ticking on a number of things. But anyways, big story. You can tell Chiefs Kingdom, Swifties all coming together for what hopefully will be a great season, and then living happily ever after. By the way, fan feedback brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. Jude, Cassie Campbell and Tupac? We're
what? Didn't happen.
Pretty sure that's fake news. Pretty sure. You might need to fact check that one, Remis.
I never said that. I never allowed that.
I do know Cassie Campbell's been married to Brad Pascal for a good 20 years. Not sure whether she dated Tupac.
We don't want to start fake news, but in terms of other,
but I'm here for
com-
hilarious comments like that, and we'll certainly have some time for it. Sarah Palin and Ron Duguay.
I was looking up Ron Duguay on who'sdatedwho.com, and it said they were together. I've been perusing that website and ChatGPT to come up with my lists.
I think Duguay was there with supermodel Carol Alt for a long time as well.
Ron Duguay, yeah, I mean, he was making big news, Ron Duguay, when he was with the Rangers, he was on TV. So he's
a big one. By the way, Ticona Polly, thanks again for that super chat, did mention Princess Auto Panic Car Show Sunday, 10 to 3. We'll be out in Regina getting ready for the game. But yeah, if you're in town, definitely check that out. Maybe you'll see Ticona there doing his thing. Dolph Ziggler and Amy Schumer, T-Will. Hey, the wrestlers do a great job. All right, listen, we got to get ready for CFL 110. So let's get over to the Cool Bet lines. Again, if you missed it, our NFL Futures show for WST winners is going to be on Friday. We'll get our favorite player props for the year, divisional bets, win totals, make the playoffs, AFC, NFC picks, Super Bowl, all of that with myself, Jake, and Pat. And then next Friday, it all gets going. Week 1 picks every Friday morning, 10 a.m. throughout the season. The chat will be live. We'll have a lot of fun making our football picks, putting together some parlays, which the boys will boost, and we'll get them up over at CoolBet. For tonight, relatively quiet night, but we do have that Blue Jays game that we were just talking about. Jays now minus 208 on the money line. It is even money on the run line at minus 1.5. I'm going back to the well with a Bo Bichette over 1.5 total base bet, which is basically even money at minus 103. I was also looking, we got Vlad back in the lineup tonight. How about an Ribby for Vladdy? Over half a run. So basically, Vlad to get an RBI tonight is plus 135. Tons of tennis going on right now as the U.S. Open continues early round play. And then we'll dive into this more with our picks on CFL 110, which is coming right up. But here are your CFL lines, which have not moved since we did CFL 110. Bombers, 5.5-point underdogs in the Labor Day Classic, plus 200 on the money line. The Argos, also 5.5-point underdogs against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Ticats minus 5.5 at home. Argos plus 195 on the money line. And the Battle of Alberta, late game on Monday. It's the Elks as 6.5-point underdogs. Calgary, obviously, 6.5-point favorites. Elks plus 225 on the money line, and the Calgary Stampeders minus 286. And the Stamps are now the Grey Cup favorite at CoolBet, plus 240 to win the championship here in Winnipeg in November. Hamilton plus 310. Riders plus 325. Alouettes 5-1. And the Bombers, this has been a long time. The Bombers are 4th in the West, behind BC at a plus 1150. Bombers plus 1350. Argos 22, Ottawa 24, and Edmonton 54-1. Elks, though, with a chance, if they can find a way to win, they're going to be right back in the mix of a team that could potentially challenge for the playoffs. So all that's there waiting for you at CoolBet. Check out the promo page as well. And if you haven't played a CoolBet, use the promo code WST when you sign up and when you make your first deposit for that 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. All right, before we get out for CFL 110, Remo, some horse picks. I had a bad night to get goosed. I did not win, and I went to the track, made a few additional bets that did not win. However, I got to give a shout out to my pal Ross, who I was with. Marbles has never won marbles, but he did pop a $750 triactor last night. And dude, one of the races, had the biggest $1 triactor I've ever seen. A $1 triactor last night on one of the races paid $1,772.
Whoa. Well, we got to do this quick because of CFL 110.
Fire away.
CFL 110. I also had a big fat 0 last night. I'm on race 2, 3, 5, 6. I'm
just roll yours out. I'm putting in my last one. You can just go through yours. And
race 2, horse 5 to win, Baby Gundon. Race 3, horse 5 to win, Malibu SS. Race 5, Exacta 1, 2, Miko, Mackay, and a lot of Verve. And then race 6 is my triactor box 4, 5, 7, Nautical Moon, Explosive, and Doc Higgins.
Okay, right on. I'm starting in race 1 tonight. I'm putting $5 on number 3, Not True, to win. I like that one. I'm going to try a couple win bets on, and then a couple other ones. So Not True to win in race number 1. Race number 4, I'll go $5 on number 7, Ghost Yeah to win. That's a really short favorite. Hopefully it wins and we can get, double the money. So I've got 2 other wagers. Race 6, I'm going to do the triactor box. I'm going 1, 6, 7, Fast Traffic, Inform, and Doc Higgins. And then the final one of the day, this is a little bit of a longer shot. We're going to go an Exacta box, 7, 9. Mineral Rights and Casually Classy. So there you go. There's our picks for tonight. Free parking, free admission was there last night. Looks even nicer tonight. And the weather's getting nice. So we got live racing tonight and tomorrow out at Assiniboia Downs. And, of course, you can always play at hpibet.com and watch the races live on ASD in the Assiniboia Downs YouTube channel. I mentioned, funny, I think it was Murray said, we can't mention Ryder on the show. I'm talking Ryder Cup, not the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Although we will be talking Riders, Bombers tomorrow as well. And Feinberg will join me for a little chat about the announcement of the Ryder Cup teams. And we continue to get the latest on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as we get closer to heading out west to Regina this week for the Labor Day Classic. Thanks again to Josh Goldberg, Brandon Rewucki, Darren Bauming, who joined us today, and all the sponsors that make WST happen each and every day. Folks, don't go anywhere. We're going to flip you right into the premiere of this week's edition of CFL 110 right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. live right here, WST.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.